yeah? By now, you should have a pretty good idea of what you can expect from hell. You know to kill the first person you see when you fight your way out of the birthing sacks. You know to find clothing, tools, and shelter. You know that no matter what you do, how well you do, someday, it's back to being fresh meat. This is the biggest city you can imagine. Tribes fight and die for territory, and taking a wrong turn is a fucking death sentence. You'll get a feel of where you should and shouldn't go eventually. Develop the kind of street smarts you need to stay a resident for more than a day. Even so, there are places in Dis that you should know about. Let's do a little sightseeing tour of hell, shall we? Maybe the advance warning will do you some good. First stop, Skin Street. Allow me to tell you about the first time I saw Skin Street. I dropped out of my birthing sack onto the road, stood straight back up, and got ready to fight. However, nobody was there. Not a single person was out in the street that stretched out for miles in either direction. I relaxed a little and took a long look around. Most of the streets in Dis were a labyrinth of network of buildings. You spent most of your stay in hell paranoid that just around the next corner, there's somebody ready to beat you down. Skin Street isn't like that, though. It's a single straight line with only the rain and darkness to hamper visibility. I felt more vulnerable there than I felt in any other part of Dis. You ever walked into a wide, empty space and suddenly felt exposed? Yeah, well, imagine that, but also being naked, unarmed, and in hell. Still, I knew what I was supposed to do. The first step was to find some clothing. That's where I learned how Skin Street got its name. Every building, every busted street light, and gas lamp was decorated with flayed skin. I've been in hell long enough to the point where to not be too freaked out by this, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't affect me at all. In a fucked up kind of way, it kind of reminded me of Christmas, you know? People hanging wreaths and lights by their houses, that sort of thing. I remember the time I spent with my family, with my kids on Christmas morning. Feelings like that get you killed though, so I pushed them straight back down and pulled some scraps out of the nearest building. If somebody was going to leave clothing material just lying around, I may as well take it, right? I didn't know it at the time, but every step that I took on Skin Street was being watched. When the attack came, I didn't even get a glimpse of the guy. Bang! My skull fractured from an expert swing of a club. Whoever hit me went for my eyes the second I hit the floor, stuck his fingers straight into my sockets. And I was blind and crying like a baby when he started to peel away my skin. Here's the thing, some people are fucked up even by hell's standards. The loners, the serial killers, stalkers, and psychos all make their way to Skin Street in the end. Most of the damned use the whole body of the kill, but the Skin Street people like to take trophies for whatever reason. They leave their ornaments out as bait for the ignorant and sulking in the shadows, waiting for the best moment to ambush. If you ever find yourself on Skin Street, you're going to have to think fast. Forget clothing, just grab a rock, a piece of wood, or anything that you can use as a weapon. Stay out of the shadows, keep checking behind you, and get out of there as quickly as you can. Perdition Farms. You're gonna be chased in hell. That's unavoidable. I mean, at some point, you're gonna stumble into someone bigger than you, or you'll find yourself outnumbered. Forget about a fair fight. If someone can take you down without you actually fighting back, you can bet that's what they'll do. It's easy to lose focus when you're running for your life. You can forget to pay attention, you can forget about your surroundings, and that, my friend, is a big mistake. The outskirts of the Perdition Farms are littered with these stupid little billboards that promise free food and safety to anybody fucking stupid enough to actually believe them. The tribes that fight over the particular territory like to herd people off the streets and into their industrial complexes that they call home. The good news is that those tribes won't kill you. The bad news is that they're big fans of taking people alive. They've got their own little pet project, you see, been working on it for as long as I can remember. I couldn't tell you who originally decided that hell should have an organized food production, only that the idea stuck, and over the years, countless tribes have been taking it upon themselves to try and make that dream a reality. Get yourself captured by them and you can look forward to a bit of slave labor. For the most part, the Perdition Farm tribes tend to make use of the birthing pods as a source of food. They force their slaves to harvest them from the walls, grind them up into industrial vats, mix them with blood, body parts, rainwater, or anything else that you can conceivably make a broth out of. The life of a slave is short, brutal, and absolutely disgusting, particularly those slaves that have been used as guinea pigs for their latest concoctions. You see, amniotic fluid can be drunk if you're desperate, though drinking too much is a guaranteed way to make you empty your stomach out of every available orifice. The flesh of the sacks is a different matter, though. I couldn't tell you exactly what the birthing sacks are. Some people say that they're the actual flesh, while others swear that they're more like a fungus. What I do know is that they repair themselves over time. Eat some of their flesh, and over the next few days, you'll have a new birthing sac growing inside of you. It's a small mercy that you won't live long enough to see it break through your skin. You'll be dead shortly after your stomach bursts. If you're lucky, your days as a slave will end as the tribe decides that they want some real meat. I mean, they're not stupid enough to test their broth themselves. Not when there's no shortage of slaves in hell. Look, I can't force you to stay out of the Perdition Farms. I can only offer you advice. In my opinion, if you think you're being herded there, it's better to take whatever you have at hand and to cut your own throat. I'd take fresh meat status 100 times over before spending another day on the farms. The Boneyard. So, maybe you're thinking to yourself, hey, I'm just the kind of nut job who'd join a cult. Is there anything in hell for me? Well, if that sounds like you, then the Boneyard has you covered. You see, there's a certain kind of religious fanatic who really does belong in hell, and I'm not talking about the old dears who bake cakes and raise money for a new church roof here. I'm talking about the guys who went to war because God commanded it, who burned women for supposedly consorting with demons, and who saw nothing wrong with messing with the odd kid. Look, when those people got to hell, they were too thick-headed to make sense of what happened. I mean, why face reality when you can pretend it's all just some test of faith? They find like-minded folk in the Boneyard. I'm told that at one time the Boneyard was a cathedral surrounded by a cemetery that stretched on from horizon to horizon. Maybe that's true. I don't know. These days, it's a shanty town of temples and churches built from the materials scavenged from the streets. Everywhere you look, you'll find a wild-eyed zealots preaching their own twisted version of redemption and gangs of masked men on the prowl for fresh converts. Mortification of the flesh is the main pastime in the Boneyard. If you listen to the cacophony of sermons, you'll be informed of how the flesh is wicked and how we must be purged of sin, how lucky we are to have been given such a holy duty, and how fortunate to be given an opportunity to redeem ourselves before God. Yeah, the people of the Boneyard have had a long time and plenty of fucking practice when it comes to mastering torture and degradation. I'm not a good person. I've killed, raped, and cannibalized. I can honestly tell you that I've never been able to dream up some of the sick shit that goes on in that fucking Boneyard. I've wandered in there by accident once, and I've never been able to get what I saw there out of my brain. I watched a woman, naked and bound, forced onto her knees and violated with iron rods. A preacher sewn his own eyes and lips shut in front of a crowd before sewing off his own manhood with a piece of slate. A boy, maybe 14, was publicly crucified. A girl was drowned in shit, and an older man had sharpened flint pushed under his fingernails. I could list off 100 other atrocities done in the name of redemption. Look, just stay away from that fucking Boneyard. The people there decided that hell just wasn't hellish enough for their liking. Look, forget about redemption. Forget about God. The only way to get out of the hell is by riding a fiery pillar up and taking over a living body. Just focus on that if you want to escape. The damned can't offer you salvation. The damned only offer more pain.